Immortality, nature. If immortality and eternal youth are possible, why don't we see them? Surely some species would have figured it out. But then why don't we find million-year-old trees and thousand-year-old animals? Why aren't there creatures that maintain a youthful vigor throughout their lives? Surely that would convey some evolutionary advantage. Actually, biologists have found species that don't weaken with age. These species only seem to get bigger and stronger with time. Forever young? Some species experience negligible senescence, they show little to no diminishment with age. These animals include sea anemones, ocean quahogs, lobsters, rough-eye rockfish, Greenland sharks, and naked mole rats. Besides showing no signs of aging, these creatures are long-lived. Naked mole rats, despite being the size of mice, live 8 times longer. Unlike all other mammals, the annual chance of dying for a naked mole rat does not increase as they age, it stays constant. The oldest known ocean quahog was 507 years old, and the oldest Greenland shark was estimated to be as old as 512 years. Biological immortality. Negligible senescence shows that some organisms can avoid or repair the damage that comes from aging. Despite this, these creatures still eventually die. They are long-lived but they are not immortal. Is it possible for organisms to not only remain young, but live forever? Immortal organisms. A truly immortal creature would not just live for hundreds of years, but millions or billions of years. In 1995, the microbiologist Raoul Cano revived yeast that had been trapped in amber for 45 million years. These yeast cells survived over geological periods of time. In 2011, Cano achieved his dream and used these yeast to craft beer. Scientists have sprouted 31,800-year-old seeds and revived worms that laid frozen in Siberia for 42,000 years. Bacteria spores, trapped in a salt crystal for 250 million years, have been returned to life. As remarkable as these cases are, none of these organisms were fully alive during these times. They were not eating, breathing, or reproducing. They idled in a dormant state, waiting for reactivation. The immortal life forms we seek aren't in some kind of stasis, but should be actually living for millions of years. They need to be metabolically active, eating, digesting, breathing, moving, reproducing. As it happens, there are creatures on this planet that have lived billions of years. Some can probably be found in locations not far from you. All comes down to how amoebas reproduce. Amoebas reproduce by splitting in half. So then, which of the two is the original? Both are made entirely from atoms and molecules of the original. Both have equal vitality. Neither is mother or daughter. Accordingly, you can start from any amoeba alive today and trace its history back through the eons. Eventually this backwards trace will reach something too unlike an amoeba to still be called one, perhaps at a time around 1.5 billion years ago when their kind, known as protists, were the dominant life on Earth. Every amoeba alive today is the first amoeba. All are equally ancient. Quote, "That first amoeba, weirdly clever, exists today and shall forever. Because he reproduced by fission. He split himself, and each division and subdivision deemed it fitting to keep on splitting, splitting, splitting. So, whatsoe'er their billions be, all amoebas still are he." End quote. Arthur Gitterman in Ode to the Amoeba, 1922. Humans often consider themselves the pinnacle of evolution. But the amoeba's genome is hundreds of times The Hydra of Lerna is a creature of Greek and Roman mythology. It protects the entrance to the underworld. The Hydra has many snake-like heads, it lives in the water and can regenerate. If any head is cut off, 2 more grow in its place. The Hydra of Lerna was a myth, but there is a real-life Hydra. It was first described by the father of microbiology Antony van Leeuwenhoek in 1702. Like the Hydra from mythology, this Hydra is aquatic and has many snake-like appendages. In the micro-world, the real Hydra is every bit as terrifying as the mythical one. Its tentacles are paralyzing to the touch. When it eats, it rips an opening in itself to make a mouth. This enables Hydra to swallow prey larger than itself. In 1744, Abraham Tremblay discovered the Hydra's regeneration abilities. If a Hydra's arm is cut off, not only will it grow back, but the severed limb will regrow into a second Hydra. In 1971, researchers took this to the extreme. They found that Hydra could be cut into hundreds of pieces, and found every clump with at least a few hundred cells reassembled into a new Hydra. In 1998, a study concluded that Hydra may even be immortal. Quote, "The results provide no evidence for aging in Hydra, mortality rates have remained extremely low and there are no apparent signs of decline in reproductive rates. Hydra may have indeed escaped senescence and may be potentially immortal." End quote. Biologist Daniel E. Martinez in his study of Hydra, 1998. Like the amoeba, Hydra reproduce by splitting. But the vitality of the budded-off individual is no more or less than the original. This suggests that Hydra, like amoeba, are immortal. But unlike amoeba, Hydra are animals. While small, they contain tens of thousands of cells and can grow to several centimeters, large enough to be seen by the naked eye. Their closest relatives are sea anemone and jellyfish. Hydras owe their regeneration ability to the fact that they are filled with stem cells. Some even describe Hydra as nothing but stem cells. But Hydra are tiny. Can an immortality exist in large life forms? Immortal plants. The largest known living thing is not a whale, nor a sequoia tree, but something much bigger. It takes up 100 acres and weighs 6,600 tons, 1,000 times more than an elephant and 3 times more than the largest sequoia. In addition to being the largest organism, it is also one of the oldest. It's 80,000 years old. Like the Hydra, it is believed to be immortal. This organism is a plant. It is a vast interconnected root structure, which manifests above ground as an aspen forest. What we perceive to be individual aspen trees are more like branches of the same tree. These branches spring up from underground, and can appear up to 100 feet away as root suckers, spread through the soil. The largest known aspen tree system is called Pando. Found in Utah. Genetic testing revealed all trunks belong to the same organism. Pando is 80,000 years old, 20 times the age of the Great Pyramid. When it sprouted, there were only about 10,000 humans on Earth. The immortality of Hydra and aspens tells us immortality doesn't require being single-celled, small, or a plant. Immortality only requires mechanisms for renewal. Immortal species. When we stop and think, we realize that all species are immortal. Every species has mechanisms for rejuvenation. Some rejuvenate themselves perpetually, like the amoeba, Hydra, and aspens. Others, like the immortal jellyfish, rejuvenate themselves periodically, reverting from adulthood back to an immature state. Through this periodic rejuvenation it can live forever. Still other species rejuvenate during sexual reproduction, where 2 adult cells from the parents come together to form a new cell that is reset to a younger state. Somehow this process resets the clock on the cell and enables them to continue dividing for another human lifetime. In this way, every human cell belongs to a long, unbroken chain of human cellular divisions. This chain goes back millions of years. While no human individual is immortal, humanity as a whole is. This is an important clue. Within us are mechanisms to reset human cells to a younger non-senescent state. These rejuvenated cells figure out how to clear cellular junk, restore DNA, and resume dividing. If we could figure out the mechanisms for triggering this cellular reset, it might be possible to trigger those mechanisms in our existing cells. In 2006, the researcher Shinya Yamanaka discovered how to do this. He identified 4 proteins, known as transcription factors, which when applied to a cell can reset it to a younger state. Using these 4 transcription factors, now called Yamanaka factors, he could program any cell to revert back to a pluripotent stem cell. These are cells in a state before they differentiate into separate types, such as skin cells, muscle cells, liver cells, brain cells, etc. Stem cells are the cells that existed in the human embryo before they differentiated into our separate tissues and organs. In 2012, Yamanaka received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discovery that mature cells can be reprogrammed to become pluripotent. Stem cells are the basis of the emerging field of regenerative medicine.